meetings. So I think our first one was in March, then June, and then we got one today. So other folks on the SMTC staff that are with us today are Megan Vitale. She's our principal planner that is helping out with the meeting today. Andrew Frazier is also with us. He is, a transportation analyst with SMTC, and Tom Bardenett, who is our newest transportation planner. And we've also got, I believe I saw Mike has joined too, Mike Alexander from SMTC with us today. He's also a senior transportation planner, and our administrative assistant, Lori Irvine, is on. And speaking of Lori, if you're having any issues with connecting or getting into this meeting today, you can call our office at 315-422-5716. You should see that number on the screen in front of you. You'd be able to get in touch with her, and she can hook you up with the right person in our office to help get you all settled and joined in here. You'll notice first we're recording this meeting, so by joining the meeting you've consented to recording. Second, you're muted upon entry. When it's time to ask questions, or if you're a speaker, we'll make sure that we will ask you to unmute yourself, and then you'll be able to do so. That just helps when we get to have more than a handful of people. It just keeps us from talking over one another. We found this is a good way to kind of manage that. So again, if you're having any technical issues, got the phone number on the screen, or you can email contact us at smtcmpo.org. Okay, so with that, typically we have not been doing introductions of everyone that's joined us. As we've got, you can see on the screen, should be able to take a look at the participant list. Right now there's 25 of us, so it might take us some time to go through introducing ourselves. So I will introduce our speakers as they join us to speak, and we will go from there. Real quick, we do this at the start of each meeting, just a little bit of kind of housekeeping, I guess. Meeting expectations. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So this is our agenda on the screen here. Right now we're in number 1, welcome and introductions. So as far as meeting controls and meeting expectations, I probably at this point, nearly all of us or close to all of us have been on Zoom meetings. This slide kind of runs over real quick the desktop controls you have if you're sitting at your desktop at home, muting, unmuting, starting and stopping your video. You can grab the participant list by clicking on this little up arrow. There's a chat window. At any point, if you have questions, you can send those to us through the chat. We will get to those after everyone has had a chance to speak, and after our guest speaker speaks. We just want to make sure we have enough time for all of that. And then any questions we don't get to during the meeting today, SMTC will do our best to get answers to those, and we'll post those on our website. As far as meeting controls for calling in, there's a couple of specific a couple of guidelines for how to do that. Those are up on the screen, and you can also grab those on our website, www.smtcmpo.org. And as far as participant conduct is concerned, we just ask that you be respectful. This is a list of pretty typical items. We just ask you to be respectful of one another. So we would very much appreciate that. So thank you. And I'll get right into our SMTC, Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council. I'll get right into our planning projects and our updates that I wanted to share with you real quick. And again, I can answer questions about these following the presentation today. We'll have a good chunk of time to answer questions. As far as projects that we're working on, we've continued to work on the Village of Skaneateles Pedestrian Safety and Access Study. And we're looking to do some public outreach late fall, so probably November, early December for that project. For our Manlius Village Center Pedestrian Safety and Mobility Study, we had a couple of meetings specifically for business owners over the summer and are in the process of coming up with some initial draft recommendations that we would like to share with the public probably in late fall, just to get a little bit of feedback, and then we can further refine those recommendations for that project. And again, these are all projects that relate to bicycle and or pedestrian planning in some fashion or another. Our Tuscarora Road Corridor Study that's taking place in Chittenango, Aaron McKeon, one of our senior planners, is heading that up. He is actually in the process of some public outreach for that study right now. There's a presentation that's been pre-recorded on the project website for that. You can see that mentioned on the screen. If you go to our website at smtcmpo.org /Tuscarora, and then you'll be able to get to that project website. And then he's also going to have a live question and answer session through Zoom October 13th from 4 to 5:30. It's will be run similar to this. You've got to register for that ahead of time, but all that information can be found right on our website. Let's see, other projects that we've had going on that we've continued this year. We have the City of Syracuse Sidewalk Ratings Project. Essentially, our staff and some interns have gone out over the last couple of summers and collected sidewalk conditions data throughout the city. And over the past 2 years, Andrew shared the update with me today. We've collected almost 350 miles worth of data for that project, so that's pretty exciting. And one last thing to make note of, hopefully some of you out there have seen our public safety announcements. The City of Syracuse asked us to rerun some bicycle safety PCAs we ran a couple of years ago on a variety of TV stations locally here. We're also sharing one of those a week on our Facebook page in conjunction with the PSAs. City asked us to run these again as the bike share has returned to the City of Syracuse. So those are SMTC updates, and I am going to also let's see here, just to make sure he's not on. Neil Burke from the City of Syracuse, he's a transportation planner there, was not able to attend today. He's got another meeting he's in right now. So what he did is he shared with me, let me stop this here. He shared with me the updates that he had for the city. So I'm gonna share those with the group right now. And again, we actually also received a few questions ahead of today's meeting that were for the city. So he was also able to answer a few of those for us as well. So I'll get to those. But I just mentioned bike share in the city. So he mentioned that Sync Bike Share returns as Sync Shared Mobility the last week in September, which is where we are right now here. So he said a new vendor was chosen to operate the Sync system, which will provide electric pedal assist bikes and electric scooters at the same locations as the previous Sync Gotcha bikes. We actually were out yesterday and we actually saw a couple of scooters out there when we were driving around. The new vendor is Veo Ride, VEO Ride, and it's a woman-owned company that operates in several dozen markets across the U.S. He said that the program includes local hires for the Syracuse operations team, and the headquarters of local operations will be in a former boxing gym in the Tip Hill neighborhood, and that Sync will continue to operate through the winter months, but at a reduced fleet size. Neil also provided an update on the Municipal Sidewalk program for the City of Syracuse. The city's working with 2 contractors to replace sidewalks across city neighborhoods. Let's see, several miles of sidewalks have been poured, and work will continue in the fall as temperatures allow. He says that this year saw no fee for residents through the use of the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act. That's the funds associated with the coronavirus recovery funds. And that sidewalk work is being coordinated with ADA corner repairs, bringing those up to ADA requirements. And that, I'm going to read this because he said it, that work with SMTC has been pivotal to the program. So thanks for the shout out for that, Neil. Let's see, he's also mentioned the Supplemental Sidewalk Snow Removal Program that will return for the 21-22 winter. This program was suspended last year due to COVID impacts on city operations. The Municipal Sidewalk Program now provides a financing arm for SRP for the sidewalk, for the snow removal program year over year. As the program progresses, additional routes will be added. And again, he mentioned that SMTC work has assisted with that project. Let's see, the city started a speed hump pilot program. Some of you may have seen this in the news. They were installed in 5 locations as part of a traffic calming pilot in the city. Baseline traffic and speed counts were collected prior to installation of those. And post-installation traffic and speed counts will be collected to determine the effectiveness of the speed humps in these locations. He also noted if the pilot is successful, a program may be developed to allow for regular installations in the future. They are not looking for any additional suggestions for locations at this time. So we can look for another update on those items for him in a couple of months. We received a few questions in that I was able to reach out to Neil and get a few answers for. So I'm going to go through those very quickly here, and then we can get on to any updates that New York State DOT may have. Someone had asked about the status of the Creek Walk Phase 3 down to Darwin Ave in the city. And city engineering mentioned that the city is actively looking for grant funds to progress the Creek Walk Phase 3 project, and that they may include it in the next tip cycle request, and they're also looking at other grant possibilities for that as well. Another question came in about I-81 bike infrastructure to be planned for the future and connecting that to bike lanes proposed in 2012. And the comment said that few have been built, why not? And the response is, and we've experienced this here ourselves, but well-organized, consistent advocacy directed at local elected officials always helps. And we've actually seen that in action before with the bike lanes that we have out there now. So continue to knock on the door of those road owners where you want to see bike lanes and where you want to see amenities such as bike lanes and pedestrian facilities. Another question that came in, this goes to actually all our member agencies, but this question was, what pedestrian crossings are being improved and marked in Onondaga County and in the city of Syracuse for pedestrian safety? Engineering in the city of Syracuse is handling what's called the PSAP, Pedestrian Safety Action Plan for city locations. And so actually I just received probably an hour ago a list of signalized and uncontrolled intersections and locations from the city where they are making some improvements. So I'll be able to share that post meeting here. We'll be able to share that information on our website. And I'll be looking to do the same with Onondaga County and New York State DOT, just a matter of getting all that information in one place for everybody. Maintenance of sidewalks regarding overgrown vegetation and or missing sidewalk was another question. Neil asked that I remind everyone, as far as city locations are concerned, he wanted to remind everyone about the city hotline. Sidewalks aren't replaced by request, but items such as overgrown vegetation or missing sidewalk, that would be a good place to start as far as submitting those locations to the city so they're aware of those. And he said that overgrowth should be reported as this is then submitted to codes in the city for citations and follow-up. So that phone number is 315-448-CITY. There is also a fairly new mobile app and online web portal of, I believe it's called Syracuse City Line. It's SYR City Line. So if you want to take a look at that, that's another way to report any issues or concerns you might have in the city. Okay, another question that came in, missing sidewalks near Syracuse Amtrak. Should be able to get from there by wheelchair to the mall, to the market, to North Salina. You can't right now. The SMTC completed a study, gosh, I believe it was last year, and it's on our website. It's the RTC Market Area Mobility Study, and the city has those recommendations in hand and is aware of some of the recommendations that we made. So again, that's another item that it wouldn't hurt to remind some of our elected officials of those recommendations in there. We did have another question about bike lane maintenance in the city of Syracuse and ADA sidewalk access during construction for both public works and private property. This question is a good question. And as far as the city goes, Neil's response to this was that contractors often fail to adhere to their permit documents regarding temporary traffic controls. The city tries to follow up, but it's kind of the fencing and the signs and the other items are moved often during construction. So hazards that people run into should be reported to the Syracuse Police Department as they are the agency tasked with citing contractors. So that's a good way to follow up with those. And another question, let's see, I think I've got all of them. Okay, those are all the questions that had come in prior to our meeting that were related to the city. So that we were able to answer. If there's anything we didn't get to, we can chat about that at the end of the meeting. So with that, I'm gonna ask Megan if she can unmute Mr. Roth. We've got David Roth from the New York State Department of Transportation who has graciously agreed to join us today as Julie Baldwin was not able to be here. So Dave, if you've got any updates that you can share with us from NISDOT, we'd appreciate that.
Sure, we don't have too many.
Okay.
Basically, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm sort of newer to the Department of Transportation here in Syracuse anyway. I'm the acting regional planning and program manager. I've taken over those duties from Mark Frechette as he is focusing on the I-81 project. But anyway, in terms of our updates, I mean, like I said, there's not many. We can talk about the Empire State Trail and the Erie Boulevard project out from Bridge Street West. That project is wrapping up. The last I heard from our head of construction is that all we have to do is some final pavement markings there still, but that project's essentially done. Now going from Bridge Street East out to Genesee Street, that project has unfortunately had a bump. We let the project earlier this year. We had an issue with a contractor who won the initial award. We had to re-let the project. It was awarded again in August. We're not sure how much work they're going to be able to do here at the end of the construction season. So most of the work out there, we're going to be repaving Erie Boulevard and doing various pedestrian improvements, including sidewalk work out there. The bulk of that work is going to be, unfortunately, next construction season. We have an upcoming project. It's Route 11 up a little bit north from Cottonwood to Factory. we're doing an ADA and sidewalk project up there. It's due to be let in April, and we got design approval on it just about a month ago. So that'll be coming. And then finally, and probably some of a lot of people on here have been involved with the current solicitation for our Federal Transportation Alternatives Program projects. That's our TAP projects. The applications are due today. So we know people were probably scrambling to get them in. But for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a federal, essentially a federal fund source with broad eligibility for bicycle pedestrian alternative modes of transportation. And it typically goes to a lot of municipalities. There's a big solicitation process whenever the rounds come up, and we get to fund a lot of those types of projects through that fund source. Now, in terms of the questions we got from you, Danielle, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the PSAP. I have a list of 27 intersections, which probably overlap with other information that you have.
I bet, yeah.
So if anyone, sure. I can get that to you if you want to distribute it to everyone.
That's perfect. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the other thing is there were a couple of questions about the Empire State Trail right in the city, Clinton Square, and about people were asking about the possibility of rerouting the Empire State Trail away from the southern arm there of Clinton Square. Yeah. I mean, I certainly understand the concern there. Empire State Trail routing, I believe, is managed by the Empire State Trail program out of Albany. So that rerouting the trail would involve a lot of coordination with the city, us, and Albany to consider, rerouting the trail at this point after it's essentially been constructed and signed and done. So I mean, we can I can certainly forward those concerns on, but yeah, it's going to be to reroute it at this point would be a little
not
a little problematic. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to.
Understood.
Yeah. And that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you. That's not that's plenty.
All right.
Thank you very much for sharing that, and we're looking forward to the extension from the end of the current Empire State Trail to in the DeWitt area, the sidewalk there. We really appreciate it. So right. I think a lot of folks are looking forward to that. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Sure, and for the updates. And I don't believe we've got anyone on from County Department of Transportation. So any questions that have come in that we would probably direct to the County Department of Transportation, I'll forward those on to those folks and share those answers on our website in the near future, probably in the next week or two when we get some information back. Let's see, I think what I'd like to do next is, let me just make sure I am not missing anything before I do this here. I think we're going to make our guest speaker Dan Kwasnowski. He is the planning director for the Syracuse Onondaga County Planning Agency, and we've asked him to join us today to share about the new county comprehensive plan. So I think Megan was going to make him a co-host. And Dan, if you have any slides you want to share, or if you just want to chat, we'd love to hear what you have to say about the new county plan.
Great. Thanks for having me. We are in the thick of near public engagement activities with a couple of projects, and happy to bring that to this group. Before I get into the presentation, so our agency is a joint agency between the city of Syracuse and the county of Onondaga. We all work we're all county employees technically, but we have 4 divisions. We have a county planning division where we do what we can for 35 municipalities with 3 people. And then we have a city planning division. You might have met Owen Kearney or his staff. He's my assistant director for city planning. And we have a city zoning office. The county has provided staff for a city zoning office since 1967. So this isn't a new thing. And that's Heather Lemondola and her team. And then we have a GIS department too. So a lot of the maps you see, you might see our logo on there. Don Jordan and Ed Hart kind of head that up, and we do a lot of addressing as well for 911. So we do a lot of things. We reach into a lot of places. And in another area, plan that I'm not going to present today, but we do a lot of work for the Agri-Farmland Protection Board for the legislature. So we do a lot of farmland protection grant, kind of setting things up and working with land trusts and doing the endorsements at the county level. And I sit on that board as well. So we reach a lot of areas as a relatively small agency of 16 to 20 people. One of the other plans that we are doing related to ag that you might see us around talking about is an update to our farmland protection plan. And that is a pretty exciting project, actually. We protect a lot of farmland, but now we're getting into agritourism and things like that. So that is a plan that should be pretty interesting. And we're hoping to have a draft of that by the end of the year. But the big project, and one that is in the charter that we're required to have, is a countywide comprehensive plan. And it's been a little over 20 years since the last one was adopted. And although, especially with a group like this, focused on active transportation, a lot of things have changed in the county over the last 20 years for the better, I hope, especially around active transportation. And one of the challenges we had was, how do we organize the countywide plan? There's just a lot of moving parts. Oh, when I present this, keep in the back of your mind what I'm trying to get at and what the county executive is trying to get at, and the legislature is. The towns and villages have, and the city have certain responsibilities and abilities, and the county does as well. And so, there's infrastructure, and we talk about water and sewer a lot, and roads, Loop the Lake Trail, like all these different things. There's a lot of different actors doing a lot of different things at a different level, right? And even DOT, we just heard from David about what DOT is doing. And we all, through SMTC, try to work together. And so we have organized our plan around themes, which I'm going to present to you today. And one of those themes is mobility. So let me get into that. And that's going to take me a second here to figure out how to share the screen. And I don't know, Megan, do you want, or Danielle, do you want them to just, I like it kind of when people throw questions into the chat if they want, as they think of them, and then we can get to them when we get to that section of the agenda. So I don't know if you want people to do that or.
Yeah, I think if folks want to throw questions into the chat, that'd be great, and then we can kind of address those when you're done. As everyone is muted right now, we have to ask them to unmute. So yeah, actually, that would be great if you're okay with that.
All right. Let me see if I can share my screen and get this going. Oh, look at that. I haven't done this in a while. I usually have somebody else do this.
Do you see on the bottom of, should be on the bottom probably. Okay.
I think this will work. Is that, so if I go to here, let me know if it looks okay or not. Does it look like a presentation or does it look weird?
If you hit the present button, that should work.
Okay.
Yep. And let's see.
This is good. Okay.
If you can, let's see. If you can just, is that my screen or your screen? Let's see, 1 second here. If you can minimize the listing of the folks on the screen, the names of everyone. Oh, that's on my screen. I apologize.
Okay. I was gonna say.
All right. Okay. So I apologize. If you go to present mode, you'll be all set. Sorry about that. Sorry.
It looks okay to everybody? It looks okay to you? It should be
that
a
looks
big
great.
screen with playing on dog in the middle.
Yep. Looks great.
Okay. Now I can't see anybody. All right.
Sorry, Danielle, I'm not seeing it. If other people are seeing it, can they give a thumbs up in the reactions? Okay. Okay, so it might just be me, as long as some other people are seeing it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Keep going. All right. There might be a
Yep.
lag. I think we're ready, Megan?
Yes, everyone else is
yes.
reporting to me that they can see it, so I think it's something on my end. So go ahead.
Okay, so Plan Onondaga. So this
Thanks.
is our fancy logo here. This is, so if you see this around, this is what it is. So this is for our county comprehensive plan. And we're working with EDR here in town. So we have a really good team. Actually, our team is interesting because we have at least 2 former planning directors for towns on our team, and Jane Rice, who's been the chair of the planning board in the village of Fayetteville for a very long time. And so we are very connected to the local level. I hope that you see that here in my presentation. So I'm just going to move to the next one. So this is our timeline. Interestingly, I thought about this as I was looking at everybody on this call. We have only presented this to local municipalities over the summer. We had focus groups, which I'll talk about in a second, and we have been doing pop-ups with the public, but we have not presented this to any agencies or anybody else yet. So you guys are really getting in on the ground floor here, and that was very much our intent, was to talk with the public and with our stakeholders first, and kind of get our act together before to kind of have that behind us and make sure that we're all connecting the dots here as we get into this, because it is a big plan. We are, I don't know if you can see my pointer here, but we are right here in number 4, the engagement campaign in the fall. And then one of the things I'm going to talk about at the end is one of the next big releases of this plan is a story map for the whole county. And we'll talk about that towards the end, what a story map is. And I have an example I can show you. But you can see that by spring of 2022, we're going to have a countywide vision, and we're going to have kind of I'll share with you that by then we will have basically a draft plan with some major planning initiatives, and that could be something physical, or it could be a programmatic change. Kind of the big ideas are going to be out by then, and then we'll kind of go back into another session of public outreach and engagement, and then we'll start to get into adoption by the county legislature in the summer. And hopefully by the fall or by the end of 2022, we'll have a newly adopted plan. And the important thing, I think, for you to keep in mind, and this is, I'm going to mention this again, that, when I come into work every day, there's about 1 million things I could work on. There's 35 municipalities, then there's the whole government agency. And so, this is our way of connecting with the public, and connecting with our stakeholders, and connecting with municipalities to figure out what everybody is trying to do, or what everybody would like to be trying to do. And then what can the county actually do to help? What resources can we bring to municipalities, to the public, to user groups, whatever it is, we do as a county to help facilitate what everybody seems to want to do. A good example of that, honestly, is trails and walkability and things like that, but we'll talk about that in a second. So over the summer, like I said, we had municipal stakeholder groups that were facilitated by EDR, and they did a great job. We had great participation from all the municipalities in the county. We have 5 focus groups, so we kind of broke the county up into 5 areas. The city was invited to every single one. One of the things about being a joint agency with the city is that, I bring this up because I've seen in other places where either a city will present their plan and they'll show the city as an island unto itself, or a county will kind of subtract out, or a town will subtract out the villages, whatever. We're all together. The county is all one. The city touches a lot of areas, and a lot of neighboring communities, obviously border the city. So they have been invited and involved in all of these. We actually got really good participation from city councilors at these focus groups, which was fantastic. But we did the sticky note polling process, And we talked about our themes, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And now what we're doing is we're going out to the public. So this is a shot from Sunday when I was at the Westcott Fair. And we were there all day. And these are little, we asked people to tell us, what your favorite thing about Onondaga County is. And Onondaga County would be better if, so the darker green ones are the ifs, and the brighter green ones are what people like about Onondaga County. And this is just because we don't talk about the plan. We actually want to hear from people, just like this forum today. So I'm going to try to get through this relatively quickly so I can hear from you. And then this weekend we'll be at the regional market. So if you would like to participate in this process and fill out one of these, we'll be at the regional market all day on Saturday, or I think 8 to noon on Saturday. And then Lafayette Apple Festival, I believe, will be there for both days. So if you head down to the Apple Festival, you'll see us there as well. So we have been really focused on municipalities first, and then pop-ups, and now we're getting into stakeholder group focus groups this fall. So I've talked about these thematic areas. So these are our organizing themes. On the left side here, these are kind of our overriding principles and thematic areas. Community engagement. So I've talked about that already quite a bit. We're really committed to the extent that we can, which is not, having been a town planner before, community engagement was fairly easy. It was just a little bit more closer to people's homes. Whereas here in the county, it's a little bit more abstract. Quality of life is one of the big thematic areas for this plan. It touches all of the other things. Quality of life for people that live here, and also to develop a high quality of life to attract people to live here and locate their business here, which leads to economic development, right? So that's another big initiative by the county executive and his PIE platform, poverty, infrastructure, and economic development. And this plan touches on all those things. But economic development is a constant ongoing theme, not only at the county level, but all of the towns and villages have kind of made that clear to us as well. So then on the right side are the themes of the plan itself, what the things that we're kind of organizing, how we're talking about things. And I'm going to go through these one by one, but I'm just going to read them off here. Strong centers, housing and neighborhoods, greenways and blueways, which is an interesting one. Community mobility, which I'll focus on today, and then agriculture, which we're really focusing on with our ag and farmland protection plan, but we will talk about that as well in our comprehensive plan. So, if you haven't caught on, so we have a plan on Onondaga, and then we have a plan on community engagement, plan on quality of life. It's a little play on words there, which I think is actually pretty good, pretty effective. So strong centers. So what are strong centers? Strong centers are amenity-rich, vibrant, and walkable centers. So if you think about village centers, you think about downtown Syracuse, they're the places that you go when you want to get out, when you want to go see other people, when you want to go have dinner, when you want to go to the post office, the bank. I live in a village. My wife works from home and owns her own business, and she says she will never live. As long as she owns her own business, she needs to be able to walk to the bank, walk to the post office, do the things she needs to do. So she needs that strong center that has those services for her to be able to do what she does at home. And I used to own a business in the village, a little store, a bike shop, and that was critical to be located in a strong center because I needed that walking public. I needed to be convenient for people to visit my shop. So strong centers are super important. We have a lot of centers in Onondaga County, but we have whole towns. One of the towns that we're working with is the town of Clay with 54,000 people, and they don't have a strong center, and they probably could use a couple of them. So we're working with them to figure out where they could be. And that is kind of the idea with this plan, is to identify what it means for people, what services it provides for people, how important it is for local businesses, and what we can do to strengthen centers. And then what we're finding is that there's all kinds of centers. So that is kind of a multi-service center, but then we have purely employment centers, like say Morgan Road. We have lots of employment centers in there, and so what are the needs for those? Oh, the other thing I'll mention, and especially I think for a group like this around active transportation, you'll find, and we find, that these are all fairly interrelated. And here we see this came from the other day, a big fan of Salt City Market. So that is something, that's an amendment, that's a development in a strong center that has provided a lot of enjoyment, a lot of quality of life improvements, and a lot of kind of a different way of enjoying food and enjoying a lot of different things here in downtown. And if you haven't been there, you should definitely check it out. The food is phenomenal. It's a very neat facility. So the next one, oh, there it goes. All right, this is just another slide on that. Housing in neighborhoods, okay. Now this is a brand new presentation, so that's why I'm a little stumbling over my slides here a little bit. Housing in neighborhoods. So this one is interesting. Housing has become a very hot topic, it seems like, lately, and especially affordable housing. I hear it from so many different corners than I ever did before. So that is definitely something we'll be looking at with affordable housing, housing quality. Originally, what we were thinking about with this was, you know, we have neighborhoods with older houses throughout the county, not just in the city, although in the city as well, of course. And a lot of those are in great neighborhoods. The neighborhoods themselves have what we would call a complete neighborhood. They have sidewalks, they have street trees, they have curbs, they have nice, you know, calm streets, parking on the street, things like that. And so what we're looking at here is what is our housing stock? So we desperately in this county and in the city need some housing needs assessment. What housing should we be building? How do we address some of these issues that we have with existing housing, and what's being built, and does it serve the households that we see today? The other part that we want to look at, though, are neighborhoods. You know, we have these great neighborhoods. How can we encourage people, you know, that maybe are looking at a new house to consider an older house in a great neighborhood, even though there's always some challenge. I have an older house. There's always a challenge with an older house. So those are the things that we're looking at, is neighborhood quality. And then if we have kind of the mid-century, mid-20th century neighborhoods that maybe don't have all the amenities, well, can we retrofit them with sidewalks? Can we retrofit them with street trees, things like that? So those are the types of things that we'll be talking about with housing in neighborhoods. And then here's one of the comments we have was more accessible housing. That's another issue, is as we have an older population and we have an increasing population, not just older people, but of all ages that have accessibility issues and mobility issues personally. So how is our new housing going to accommodate those needs? And then, you know, I don't know why this picture is there, but basically we're looking at, you know, how can we as a county provide the resources that we need for housing and neighborhoods to be affordable, efficient, diverse, and attractive. And then finally, here we are at community mobility, which really speaks to what active transportation is all about. This actually had a few different names, this theme. You know, we looked at transportation corridors and transportation-oriented development, and finally we said, you know, really what we're talking about is how do people move around in the county? And if we are going to have all these strong centers, and if we're going to be developing new ones, how do we get people there without getting into a single occupancy vehicle? How do people get to work? How do people take their kids to daycare? How do they do, you know, all those things in one day? If they either can't afford a car, or if, you know, owning a car is a financial burden. You know, maybe they can technically afford it, but maybe that it really pinches their personal budget and their household budget. And how does not being able to get to work right now, and how does that affect, just because they don't have the transportation options to do what they need to do with their children or with an older person, or, you know, whoever they take care of, to get out of the house and get to work in an efficient manner. So really, you know, community mobility goes beyond, it definitely goes beyond cars. We spend a lot of time worrying about moving cars around, but how is our transit operating to meet the needs of people, which we have an excellent transit system, which I use. I love taking the bus into work and home. you know, if people, you know, so people can ride the bikes, they can walk, you know, all those wonderful things. Take a scooter now, which is fun, and very efficient way of getting around. So community mobility is definitely, I think it's gonna be a big theme, and this is definitely one of those themes that touches all the other themes to a certain degree. So, and then how do people want to move around the county? And this is maybe something that would be a good question for the group. How do you want to move around the county that you feel like you can't now, or you feel like there's barriers to doing it? Whether it's, you know, understanding a complicated bus schedule, or the bus doesn't go where you want it to go, or you know, or even just breaking out of your habit. I know that's a big thing with people. Is just, you know, if you are in a certain habit but you would like to do something different, what can we do to make it easier for you to do that? And the other thing that we'll be looking at here, that in other counties that I've worked in was fairly successful, is talking with major employers and employers in general. Sometimes employers can incentivize different modes. It makes it easier for them for parking, you know, on site at their facility, or, you know, whatever it is, or getting workers that they need to their site. So we're definitely going to be working with large employers and new employers to figure out how mobility in the county can be enhanced so that they can get the workers they need and that people can get to the jobs that they want. These sticky notes, now this came from towns and villages and city representatives, and there you can see there's a lot there about, there's some, you can see a bike path, more bike trails. So there's, you know, there's a lot of demand out there. And this is one of the comments we got recently, the Onondaga County would be better if communities were more walkable. So that's obviously a basic need, especially in our centers. So that's one, you know, to have a strong center, it's got to be walkable and bikeable, and accessible for transit. So this is going to be one of those themes that really reaches throughout all the themes. So the next one is Greenways and Blueways. Now this one, a lot of times when we mention greenways, people go right to trails. But this actually goes, and certainly that's a part of a greenway as a linear park, like the Erie Canal Trail. But Greenways and Blueways is really accounting for our natural areas in the county, which we have a lot of. And Blueways is a new one. So, you know, all of these themes, we went back to as far as the 1945 post-war plan, which if you've never seen before is quite a historic document. But a lot of these themes really go back that far. And we can find them, you know, especially in the 70s and 80s, you know, there's a lot of good planning done in the county. And Greenways and Blueways really is consistent throughout from 1945 on. So this really accounts for our natural areas, our stream corridors, like 9 Mile Creek or Limestone Creek or Butternut Creek, the wetlands alongside of it, the Onondaga Creek certainly in the city, and then, you know, protection of those resources, water resources, the flood control resources they provide, our watersheds and the streams that feed into them. It's really, and then even the Onondaga Escarpment, you know, which is a unique natural area that traverses the county and has a lot of unique habitat, and these all provide unique recreation experiences as well. So fishing, if there is a trail, biking, hiking, bird watching, you know, all those wonderful things that we associate with natural areas. Of course, our state park, you know, Green Lake State Park, Erie Canal State Park, county parks, city parks, you know, all those different things. So this is really our way of accounting for all those things. The ecological services, as we call them, clean air, clean water that they provide to us. And then the other thing that these things do is they're kind of the backdrop. And we hear this a lot about the beautiful scenery in Onondaga County and how people really love the countryside and the scenery and even the historic buildings downtown and things like that. But those natural areas really provide the backdrop for where we live, where we play, where we work. And it makes our community more attractive to people and more attractive for us to live here. So we're looking at how can we protect them, how can we conserve them, and if need be, like in Onondaga Creek, how do we restore them? How do we restore their function? And how do we restore their function as it relates to the way that we live? So that is what that thing is about. Now the Blueways is interesting. This is a new one. And I was talking with somebody who has a boat and is really into boating, and actually talking with folks up in, it was in Baldwinsville, where we were writing a grant for them for a waterfront revitalization program grant. And we were talking about the barge canal, and somebody mentioned that, you know, you can go from Inner Harbor, or from Baldwinsville to Inner Harbor in the city in a pretty short time period on a, you know, a decent boat, right? You know, the barge canal and into the lake, and you're in Inner Harbor. And you can also, there's a great loop that goes around so basically from Baldwinsville and the barge canal, you can go to the Bay of Fundy, Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico, Mississippi River, back through the Great Lakes. And people do this, which they must have a lot of time and a very nice boat and a lot of money to spend on fuel. But that's a thing. And Baldwinsville is known as one of those spots in there. So we started thinking about, well, how do we account for that? And we started thinking about our lakes, Skinny House Lake, Patisco Lake, Onondaga Lake, and how do people see our landscape from the lake? And what kind of resources can we bring to make that more accessible to people, that viewpoint? I always found being out in the middle of a lake is similar to being on top of a mountain, you know, where you can kind of see a much larger area that's unobstructed, and it's a different viewpoint on our world. So, and having Onondaga Lake right in our urban center is a huge opportunity to kind of change people's perspective on how they see their world and the world around them. So that's what the Blueways part is about. And then one of the favorite things is pretty parks and to hike. So we do have beautiful parks, and we have a lot of these greenway resources and blueway resources. So how do we protect them and conserve them and restore them? And I will mention also make them and change with the times as people's recreation preferences change. You know, whether it's kayaking or paddleboarding or you know, biking or whatever it is, you know, how are we adjusting our programming in our parks to meet the needs of people so that we stay current and reduce conflict for that matter. And then finally, you know, I mentioned we're doing a farmland protection plan update, and this is a really critical part of our economy and of course our landscape. So we're kind of treating this separately from Greenways and Blueways because it is a very large landmass area. And although there are a lot of natural areas associated with agriculture is really an industry, and it's a business, and it's a very intensive activity on the landscape. But it also benefits us. We can actually provide all the food for everybody in Onondaga County, within Onondaga County, if we have to. Of course, we do import a lot from California and Mexico and other places, but if we really had to, we could actually grow all the vegetable and agricultural needs. We could provide all of the food. We could create it all here in Onondaga County. So that's kind of interesting. So, and of course, it's a very large, you know, part of our landscape and economy. So that has its own whole separate plan, but we will speak to that here in the comprehensive plan, especially as it relates to our other themes. So this is our project website, which is live. It is limited, but there are a couple of things you can do here. One is you can sign up for email updates. We do also have a Facebook presence and a Twitter feed and Instagram. Those are the three, I think, so far. So those are your things. You can find us on there. If you see us at a pop-up, you can scan a QR code. But you can, one of the things you can do on our website is you can sign up for notifications, and what we'll notify you about are where the pop-ups are going to be. And then when we release new elements of the plan, like a story map, which we'll talk about in a second, you will be the first to know. Okay, so you will know, and you'll be able to go and look and check it out. And you can also send us comments as we go, which we love to get. It's very, very helpful from us too. Even these pop-ups, we've had some really great ideas and great comments and great conversations with people. And that always makes the plan that much better and that much more relevant to the people in the county. So that's plan.mygov.net, and that is live now. And as we go, it will build out. So each one of these themes has kind of a placeholder button, and we will be filling that in with information as we develop it. This one, where's Danielle? Danielle, do I have time to show a quick story map?
Yes, you have time, and we do have to end at 4:30 today. But any questions that we do not get to, we can answer on our website, and folks can follow up that way. But yes, you have time.
Okay.
I think this is interesting too.
Yeah. So this is so story maps are something that you might have run into. They're a fairly new planning tool to me. But I think they're great because we have a GIS department here. We can make maps all day. But one of the things we have trouble doing is telling the story around the map, or making them accessible to people and making them easy for people to kind of dig into a little bit. Because when you have a paper map, or even our we have an ArcGIS online. If you've never checked out our county online GIS tool, you can access it through our county planning website. That's a great tool. There's a lot you can do with that. It's a pretty powerful tool. So I'm going to show you the story maps. So story maps are kind of, it's a website, okay? But it allows you to have an interaction with mapping. And ArcGIS is a software type. It's created by a company called Erie out in California, in the Redlands, and it's ubiquitous. It's not the only GIS geographic information system mapping software. But it's certainly one of the most popular, and it's ubiquitous in government, I believe, as far as I can tell. So they actually provide, so this is hosted on their website, and I'm going to show you one from King County. I don't know if that just changed my screen, but you can see that, obviously you can use video. This is their land conservation initiative. So this is just a story map about their land conservation mission. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a story map about the county as a whole. And we're also doing one for a farmland protection plan. And what we'll do, I believe, is we're going to have that oriented towards each theme as well. So you can kind of jump around, but we will have one that kind of captures all of it into one place. And that will be our way of communicating an overall vision for the county from everything that we hear from everyone else. So as you scroll down through this is pretty simple. You just scroll down through it. Obviously it has the vision statement. Then you can have these little call-out boxes that come up. And obviously, very nice photography helps make this look nice. But here's where we start getting into a map. So King County is in the Seattle area. So see how they can integrate the map, with that. And then, some more slickness here. So they have little facts that kind of come up. What's at stake? And, obviously the salmon is a big resource there in the Pacific Northwest, and the restoration of the rivers. Talking about open space relating it to children with a picture. And then you have another nice map here. Now, I don't know if this one does it, but sometimes you get a map you can actually click on, and you can zoom in and out to your community, and the detail gets better as you zoom in based upon this theme. So this one is communities with the greatest and most acute needs, I assume for open space. So, you can see, you get the idea here of what they're doing. You can embed videos. So now they're going to talk about health studies, talking about doses of open space, showing some active transportation there. And then it kind of starts throwing goals, but now we start getting, so this is their aims relative to their conservation initiative, trails. So here's another nice stylized map of a trail system, future regional trail system in the county. natural areas. So this is like our Greenways and Blueways, rivers, speaking about river corridors, which is very important there, of course. Farmland, forest, so you get the idea. It makes your themes more accessible to people. You can kind of, tell them what you're up to. There's some different initiatives that they're gonna put forth to protect land. And that's it. So that is what the story map kind of looks like, and then you finish at the end. Now I don't know how to get back to my presentation. That's the challenge here. I think I just go like
I think if you just close.
There we go, I did it.
Yeah, it should work. All right, nice job, nice job. Do you have a sense of when the story maps will start to kind of take shape on the website?
Yes, this month. So
this month, okay, great.
Within a couple of weeks, we are going to release our first story map, and that will be with the intention of people accessing that document. There's, I don't know, this, on our website, you'll see there's a big placeholder for the story map.
Okay, great. Okay.
And the interesting thing about that, I will mention that we have our sub-consultants are using, I'll call it big data, I don't know if it's the correct term, but tapestry data to really help define our county. So it's going to be a little bit different than the kind of run-of-the-mill, demographic data, even though we do have some new demographic data from the census. It's going to be looking at markets and preferences of people here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Awesome. All right.
I think that's it. So do you want to take over?
Yes, I will. Let's see. We can.
Yeah. So I'm going to end the screen share.
Okay, thanks.
And
Perfect.
we do have one question that came in already. I think everybody can see that in the chat. Actually, now I think we have a couple. The first one being for Dan, I think the main idea being how will the county's planning effort that's just starting now take into account some of the large economic development projects that are actually currently going on, like Amazon and the proposed sports complex and it says Cicero Tech Complex. I think that's a reference to the news story that's just up on Syracuse.com now about the chip fab. So maybe you could just talk about how those kind of large regional projects will be taken into account in the planning process.
Yeah, this is this is one of the challenges with doing a countywide plan and keeping up with things that were already underway, right? So, and it's the same for the most part at a town or village level as well. So yes, we are. Those types of projects really, especially those mega projects. As a planner, they're kind of intimidating because they're so big, and it's like, oh, how does this fit in? So yes, as far as how it fits in and what we need to do to fold them into our community and make them provide the benefits of why we bring those projects here is certainly something that we're going to talk about in the countywide plan. And I think when we get to the point this winter of announcing some of those planning initiatives, those project initiatives, you'll see that I believe, and it's always, I got to think about my bosses, but those I think will absolutely speak to those projects for sure. And those are driving factors that really enable us to do things that we haven't been able to consider before. And so they're exciting and kind of scary at the same time. So yeah, that's those will definitely be accounted for sure. They're kind of impossible. And not only those, but the big ones that we already have, like a Syracuse University or an Upstate or Lockheed Martin. That's why we're going to be working with our stakeholders, our larger employers, to talk about what challenges do you have for recruiting talent? What challenges do you have for your current employee base with getting to work, with finding a home, with finding an appropriate home, with rent, with affordable housing, all those things. Yeah, we're going to dig into those pretty well. And I think the important thing for people in the end is that, you got to look for those kind of big ideas and those planning initiatives that not only the county will be putting forward, but we'll be asking our partners like DOT and SMTC and others to help us implement, because we can't do everything on our own.
Dan, could you talk a little bit about just the level of specificity in, say, a countywide plan versus what might be in a town or sub-area plan, and how those relate to each other?
Sure. So, one of the things that counties often, talk about is that they don't have land use authority, which, having been a town planner and having land use authority and having a zoning office for the city, I see it as an opportunity. We have the opportunity as a city county agency to really take a long range approach to planning. And, even the question about things that are happening now, those definitely affect your long range planning. But, one of the things that we're trying to do is say, what does success look like in the county as far as planning is concerned? What needs aren't we fulfilling? What needs do we have? What wants do we have to make where we live, a better place? And, one of the big challenges is when you go to the public this early in the process, we don't have a lot on purpose, because if we had a lot already, then people would say, oh, you had all this planned out before you went to the public. And if you don't have anything, you go to the public and say, oh, we don't have anything. I say, well, that's why we're talking to the public. That's why we're trying to gather information here. So the things that, if we don't have land use authority, well, what can we do? What can we control? What things can we do that a local government can't? So, one of those things, a lot of our local communities don't have a planning staff, like the town that I work for did. So one of the things that we do is we write grants for towns. So if you live in a community, like the city, right now we're embarking on a lakefront local waterfront revitalization plan because we wrote a grant to do that. And we wrote one for the village of Ballsville and the town of Lysander, and we have a town planning grant program. So we have those kind of grant programs. We represent all these municipalities. You talked about the projects in Skinny Atlas and the manliness of pedestrian access and circulation studies. We brought those to SMTC as projects, and we worked with the local municipalities and SMTC to kind of put together what that project is and what it will do. So those are the types of things that we can do at the county level, and it's a really important role, I think. But it really is up to other actors to actually build the things. We do that through our DOT, through our Parks Department, our Economic Development Department incentivizes things, and what we're trying to do is have a plan that kind of says this is the direction that all of these programs should be working towards. Whether it's more trails or more employment centers or more businesses, whatever it is. And that's kind of the universe that we work in. I kind of miss the days when I was, I got my start removing dams for river restoration. And when you got to the end, you took the dam out. And that was great because you could actually see that, right? These days you get to the end and you have this plan, so then you have to work on the next thing, the next thing, the next thing before you actually see something on the ground. And other people like Travis Glazier in our Office of Environment get to have more fun actually putting things on the ground. But I still see that as more of an opportunity to fulfill that role of that long-range planning in the county. Because without it, we are just kind of, it does look like just a lot of projects without a cohesive strategy behind it.
Okay, thank you. So there was a question about the trailer on the amphitheater. I think Danielle can address that a little bit. And if anyone else wants to ask a question out loud, you can use the raise hand function, and then we'll ask you to unmute, or you can keep using the chat.
Okay, yes. So I think probably most people can see the question that came in, but I'm going to reread it just in case some of you are not connected and not able to see this. But the question that came in: the west side trail on Onondaga Lake is closed on both sides of the amphitheater prior to and during events at the venue. Typically, it is closed to bike and pedestrian traffic early in the day prior to evening concerts, but on a rare occasion, has been closed almost 24 hours prior to the event. This effectively closes the trail for almost all the weekend days through the concert season, which is unacceptable. What is the plan to redirect the trail around the amphitheater so it can stay open, not only for those out to use the trail for exercise, but also to provide bike access to the venue for the concert themselves? Okay, this question has actually been asked a couple of times, and that's a question I'm going to forward to Onondaga County DOT.
Actually, send it to Travis.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Send it to Travis.
I will send it to Travis Glazier as well.
And the Parks Department.
And okay.
DOT they don't have anything to do with it.
Okay, so I will forward that question on to the appropriate folks, and we will any questions like this one that we can't answer today, as we're not we don't own the infrastructure there. Any of the questions that we haven't been able to answer or didn't get to today, we'll get an answer to that, and we'll have it on our website. You'll see we've done the same thing with previous meetings of ours on our website for this forum. So Steve, keep looking for that. We'll post that. And I know there's a few others that asked the same question, and it's a good question. So we'll make sure we get an answer to that for you there. It looks like we've got about 15 minutes. I do have one question that I forgot to address that had come in prior to the meeting. I had a question about bike trail status in Onondaga County. Do we have an up-to-date map? I can't remember if at a previous meeting I shared this, but SMTC has a 2020 edition, so this year an edition of our bike suitability map that's on our website, and with their small little pocket weatherproof map that you can stop here in the office and we can get you a copy of that, or if you need large quantities of that, we are happy to help with the delivery or pickup of that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed that had come in. And again, let's see.
Not seeing
anything else.
Oh, yeah. Is there any update on BRT? Not that we're aware of, not that we've heard recently, and we still have our smart study out there, and I know Centro is dealing with some issues right now, so just getting their basic schedule back intact. Everybody's experiencing a shortage of drivers, so we hope that people in the community are supportive of the BRT as recommended in the SMART study. And I think the more people that still are showing support for that, the more likely it is to get some traction in the future.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from folks? Anything else for Dan while we've still got him for a couple more minutes? I know we're, go ahead, Megan.
No, I was just saying, not seeing any hands raised. I don't see any more in the chat. I did put the link to the meeting evaluation form in the chat, if people wouldn't mind filling that out. It's also on our website, so you can fill that out after the meeting. So
I do want to mention too that as I know that the new county plan is just getting started as far as looking for input, and as far as folks getting seeing these pop-up meetings out in the public. So we at SMTC will make sure that we update as well. We can put some pop-up meeting locations on our Facebook page so that folks know where to go to catch the team, the SACPA team that's working on this, because I think this is just getting started. So this is, on the ground level, this is a time to get input, and a time that SACPA is looking to hear from folks on what people want and need in their community in the county here. So thank you, Dan, very much for coming in to share what the county has going on. I think it's going
Thanks for
to
having
be
me.
an interesting effort. So yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thanks for taking the time today. And I don't see any questions or comments, so I think we'll wrap this up. And again, if you have questions or something that you think of following this meeting that you want us to answer, oh, we've got one here. Okay, let's see, John Sexton.
John, you should be able to unmute now.
Lost him.
Got it.
Okay, there. Yep, we can hear you.
All right. I guess one has to do with pedestrian crossings. I see it looks like they're putting pedestrian crossings up in front of West Hill High School. I see that there's ped signal poles that are there right now. They haven't put the markings in yet. There are no sidewalks anywhere near there. And I was curious as to why they were doing that. I don't know if you know or not.
I actually had Mario of our office look into that, and he did send me an email. It appears that there may be a pedestrian project coming in the future, but I will. I want to make sure we run that. I want to make sure we ask that question of OCDOT of County DOT, and they weren't able to join us today. So whatever I can find out, I will be sure to pass along.
And then a related question. A related question would be just down the road at Western Lights. At one time, there was a crosswalk where the signalized entrance to the Wegmans parking lot, as well as the parking lot and the plaza on the other side of the road. And it got paved over and it never got put back. It seems like that would be a very good place for one, certainly be more used by more people than the one in front of West Hill High School. I'm just curious.
Yes, I don't have an answer for you on that, but SMTC did actually look at that location as part of, I believe it was part of our, is that part of our pedestrian, what was that part of, Megan?
It was part of our sustainable street study
yeah,
that we did for the county a number of years ago, and then
That's
we did
right.
a couple of application studies, and so that corridor over by Western Lights was one of the ones that we had looked at.
Yeah, so we've got some recommendations in there that the county does have, and that does include a crosswalk and I believe some signals. I looked very quickly at it today, so I can send you a link to that, John. I think
I've read it.
Okay, I just don't have it at my fingertips.
But no, I've read it, and just so there's nothing happening there, is what you're telling me.
As far as I know, I will ask that question to the county, though.
Okay. And the Empire State Trail between Clinton Street and Salina Street.
Yes, I think.
Do you not want people to use that? Is that the deal? I mean, why don't we just reroute it?
I think that you joined us after we had heard from Dave Roth from New York State DOT on that. We can pose that question to the design folks. I don't know that I don't have an answer for you. That's obviously SMTC doesn't own that infrastructure, but I think that we just need to make sure that question goes to the right folks.
Well, part of this DPW, because I think they're the ones that are putting the concrete blocks at Clinton Street and Salina Street, and they're, I don't know what the intent is. I think it's to keep cars out, but it looks like they're trying to keep bikes out as well.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all I got.
Okay, I'll make sure that we send that to city folks and county and state. We'll make sure we have all our bases covered for you.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Looks like we have one more question in the chat here. With regards to the state mobility system, has there been a positive community response to the return? Are there any pain points with it, infrastructure, operation, etc.? As far as I know, I believe the return has basically a soft launch this week, literally in the last couple of days. So, and I also don't have a representative from the city with us today to fully answer that question on behalf of the city. But we can see what Neil has to say about that.
Yeah, I put the link to the article about the launch in the chat at the beginning of the meeting. So
Oh, okay.
that's literally from today. So I don't know that we can speak to the response yet. Joe Driscoll said that he was on the RFP committee. Joe, is there anything more you want to say about that? Oop, sorry, I sent the wrong. Joe, I sent you a request to unmute if you want to say anything else about that.
Yeah, I would just note that, yeah, we have heard back from a lot of the community that they're very excited, and already, even though they've only been out a couple of days, we've seen people, they've already been in use, even though we didn't start advertising. People have been using them around the city, and just, we're feeling really positive about VO, the new company. They work in 40 plus different markets around the city, many of them similar to Syracuse with, cold weather and snow. So we feel they'll be much more suitable to adapt than Gotcha, and they have a longer endurance record. So yeah, we've been hearing positive things from the community, already seeing it back in use, and having used it this morning, it's fun, easy, and I think we're hearing a lot of excitement about it. So yeah.
Okay, great, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, let's see. I think we are good with questions. I'm going to wrap it up in the interest of time here. We've got about 5 minutes, but if anyone, like I had started mentioning before, if anyone's got any questions that maybe you didn't think of during the meeting, that you think of after, that you would like to forward to us, we will certainly work on getting answers, and look for responses to those questions that we didn't get to on our website. We hope to post those as soon as possible, hopefully within the next week or two. And Megan, again, put in the chat our meeting evaluation form. If you could take a couple of minutes to fill that out, it helps us for future meetings, kind of the times of day, format, and if there's any other topics that folks want to hear about, we'd like to know so that we can hold a future meeting that people are interested in. So let's see, I think our next meeting would then be scheduled for December.
Yeah,
So
I'm thinking we'll probably wait till after the holidays.
we may, yes.
It would be late December, so probably into the new year.
Probably look for us, at the beginning of the new year. We try to give at least a couple weeks notice prior to those meetings. But wanted to thank everybody. Oh, one more question here. Will the recording from this meeting be posted?
Yeah, so it's live streaming to YouTube now, and it will be available on our YouTube channel after the meeting.
Great. Okay, thanks, folks. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and thank you again to our guest speaker, Dan Kwasnowski, for joining us and for sharing about the upcoming exciting work that the county's going to be doing on the county plan. Really appreciate your time, and hope that everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you.